champions! 3 rookies prove themselves worthy of the top 4 in the EU LCS. A double kill from Perks! This guy is a madman! He can do it! Oh, Memento! You beautiful man! Guess the quadra gotta be a Paisa for coming!
It's time to find out who will rise. This is the EU LCS.
Welcome to week 5 of the EU LCS Summer Split. Tonight marks the end of the first round robin. Here in Ready Check, we're going to give out some EU LCS awards, totally legit ones, discuss some possible dark horses, and look ahead towards the week's action. Now, I'm Daniel Drakos, joined, of course, by Martin, Deficio, and our special guest of the week, Dan Foxdrop. Wyatt, how you
Welcome
feeling,
back, mate.
I'm here. I haven't actually worked with you before, so I can't
That's
wait
true.
to dethrone you, the king legacy of the EU LCS casting team.
I love the start already. He just called me the king.
The dynasty
Let's just
of-
move
of
on from
Deficio.
here.
So
Leave it there.
It was in my application. I said, I know these 3 words, King's Dynasty Legacy, and
Yeah.
they're like, you're hired.
I remember.
There
I
you
read it.
go.
I was there for
That's
that
how
moment.
Medic got
It
in
was-
as
it was
well.
key. It's true. He's shown us.
Oh,
You
quality.
and Martin. All right, split. We are approaching the end of the first half of the split. Last part of the first round robin is today. What are the big moments for you guys? What are the big takeaways from these first 4.5 weeks of games?
I mean, gotta always talk about Misfits. They're 8-0 for a reason. They're beating everyone. They're actually playing super well, not just, a gimmick, one playstyle that only fits one meta. No, because they're actually still playing the standard way that we saw before with 80 carries in the bot lane. So they look like a team that could actually go 18-0 at this point.
Yeah, and the standard way that most teams have actually abandoned as a playstyle thus far in the summer split. I'm looking more towards Fnatic because they're kind of not really where they were at the end of last split, since they won it all and now they're not first place. But more specifically, there's no Reckless. He's disappeared. He's gone. They're doing this without their star player.
It's exciting to see for sure. But of course, you guys have given me your takeaways. Now I'd like to throw it over to Ender. What have you got for us?
This split, we saw the largest shift in the history of Professional League of Legends. All roles were affected, but none more so than the bot lane position. Before this split, you could call bot laners AD carries, but that's no longer accurate. With the entrance of mages such as Heimerdinger, Ziggs, and Vladimir, bot lane is now the home of marksmen and mages alike. Players like Hjarnan and Attila, who could pilot these mages, have shot to the top of our tier lists, and apart from Hansama, those who couldn't adapt haven't performed. Reckless is the prime example of this. The single best AD carry in Europe for his tenure in the LCS stepped out of the spotlight after week 1 and hasn't been seen on the stage since. But the meta shift in the bot lane didn't only impact individual players. It had a profound effect on one team in particular. That's Splice. The 3rd place team in the spring split was struck down in their first 4 games. Even with Niski putting on impressive performances, the rest of the team could not play fast enough for this new meta. It was only after a 2-0 week 3, their upset over Team Liquid at Rift Rivals, and more recently Fnatic last week, that they've been able to pick themselves back up and set their eyes on a deep postseason run once more. Then you have the Misfits, now the undisputed best team in the EU LCS. After they placed 7th and missed playoffs in spring, Misfits came back with an 8-0 opening and have only one more game to go before they find themselves halfway to their perfect split. Misfits, they build their compositions around their strongest asset, the best bot lane in Europe. Hansama and Mickey X have crushed their lanes game after game, and their team fighting is somehow even better. This Misfits train won't stop until Madrid. Anything less, after an opening like this, would be a failure. Drakos, back to you.
Thank you very much, Ender. Misfits Gaming, undefeated at the top, on the way to the perfect split. That's the question on everyone's mind right now, but they're not our only top teams in Europe. They may be at the peak, but there's teams trailing right behind them. I particularly want to talk about G2 Esports and Fnatic. We heard the grab bag of excuses last week after Fnatic's 1-1 and G2's 0-2. Guys, jet lag, and then Fnatic backed them up. But really, guys, jet lag's a big factor. But let's talk about some of these other guys approaching the top as well. We heard a little bit from you, Foxdrop, about Fnatic. Deficio, I kind of want your take on what's going on with this team.
I think Fnatic are going to be fine. I definitely agree. It's obviously still weird they don't have one of the star players, but they made the change. It's been here for a couple of weeks now. They are still a top team that is not the best, and they have plenty of time to still get Reckless back in the lineup for playoffs because we have upcoming AD carry buffs. If we are reading some of the notes, that could be a meta where Reckless suddenly can actually look good on crit 80 carries.
And if you're Fnatic, of course, you're not only hungry to do well for yourself, but also to shut down the perfect split for Misfits. You know,
Sure.
The only team to get the perfect round robin was the perfect split there from Fnatic, so we'll see if they can mix it up. G2 Esports, though, the other one we have to talk about, Foxdrop. 0-2 week. Losing to Misfits, fine.
Time to
Losing
panic.
to Giants.
Yeah. Not so fine. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? It seems like they got a pretty bad case of NAitis, whatever it is, when they went over there, and they've still got it. They haven't shaken it. And a 0-2 when you were literally perfect coming into that week is really shocking. But this week is really going to say a lot for G2 because they're not going to want to drop any more games just to prove that okay. Last week, that's a blip. That's an anomaly. That's not what we are. That's not the team we are. Let's prove to everyone that we were the G2 that went 6-0.
I definitely agree. I also find it very interesting that on the podcast with Yankas and Wadid, they talked about they didn't like the draft. And they said the same thing for every loss they had so far. They're like, I didn't like the draft there.
I mean, they've had
draft issue there as well.
They've
They've had three,
Oh, three,
because
yes.
there was the NA one.
True.
And I'm like, so what's happening during that draft phase? They were trying to explain, like, we have so many picks, it's hard.
There's too many
decide.
options.
Yeah, we have like 10 supports and 10, bot laners for Yana, and we don't know who to pick in the moment. They've had another week. They've definitely gotten rid of the jet lag now. I mean, they should be able to bounce back. It was just the best of one. They lost to Giants, not the end of the world yet.
Definitely the case, but it's crucial for them to bounce back now. We take a look at the rest of the week, and you can see it is a battle among the top four. Vitality, Fnatic, G2, Misfits, these teams are going up against each other. This is the week where you really have to win. You're not playing against bottom teams. You're not looking to pick up a couple comfortable wins. You are playing against the other top teams in this week, and it's important because G2 at 6-2, but you've also got Fnatic and Vitality right on their tails, 5-3. Vitality, another team I think that we kind of have to hit, this team that's pretty important when you look at it in terms of how they've shaken up the standings in the past.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Vitality. You always know you're in for a treat because stuff is going to happen. There's going to be some crazy unique picks, and there's going to be aggressive playstyles, especially around the mid lane. Cabershot as well has actually done much better than last split, so it's been good to see more members kind of join on the hype train when it's not just the Jizuke storyline we can use every single time like we had in Spring Split. There's more people now.
Yeah, and Vitality was the team that I chose as my team to watch coming into the summer split because I wanted to see, okay, they were rookies, in basically a rookie team sort of in the spring split, and how are they going to do now that they have that first split under their belt? And honestly, they've done pretty much exactly how I didn't want them to do, which was, we still don't really know what to expect from these guys.
And that's actually really interesting, so to jump in, from a coaching perspective. Because Yamato Cannon has obviously been in the league as a coach for many, many years. I think he got in 2015 and 2014 the first time. And we always had these young lineups with him where the first split, they would surprise us. They would actually play really well. And we'd be like, wow, okay, Yamato Cannon's quickly teaching them the basics. But then the second split, typically the team kind of struggled to take it to the next level and become a true top team. Right now, there is, and I'm not saying it is Yamato's fault, but like historically, we have seen this situation again where first split, a lot of good stuff is happening and we're excited. And the second split, it's hard to then improve on it. I think Splice was the only exception where he managed to actually go all the way to Worlds with them, but then they struggle a lot there.
There was that bit of inconsistency, and now for Yamato and Vitality, if they're looking for that chance to prove themselves, if they're looking to prove that they can be that top team, today is the day to do it, man.
Sure.
You go up against G2, that's another team we talk about. Every win matters. These guys need to recover from that week, and it's not an easy battle. You got Perks versus Jizuke. Jizuke is giving me the crazy eyes. I'm not entirely sure how to feel about that, but right now this is a very intense matchup, very important for both these teams. G2 to recover, and Vitality, as you mentioned, a team with a lot to prove.
I just love Jizuke. Just look at him. How can you not love this guy? He's just so fun. He's great, and just listening to his little mic checks, they're great. But this is exactly it. The matchup that being highlighted is what you're saying, taking it to the next step for Vitality, and Deficio hating Yamato Cannon. That's what I really heard.
Definitely did not. Yeah, screw that guy.
Confirmed. Right here, already check. Yeah, this is it. If you want to take it to that next level, that's a team you got to be. A team like that is one of the better teams in Europe. Take them down.
And the other pivotal matchup that we have to talk about this week is Fnatic going up against Misfits.
Oh, baby.
And Misfits looking unstoppable. Fnatic also accepting the hard reality that they are no longer the clear #1 team in EU. I don't think anyone would say, hey, these guys are going to win the finals, no question right now. So once again, another important statement win for Fnatic. And for Misfits, well, every win kind of matters right now, especially when you're trying to go for the perfect split.
Also because if you are Misfits, your entire goal is just to lock down a top 2 spot. Is the first thing you're looking at. No one wants to start 8-0 and then manage to lose the top position that gets you straight into a semifinal at the Summer Split playoffs. Because we have to remember, this team did not get any championship points last split. They need everything they can get if they want to go to Worlds. Like, if you make the final in the Summer Split, you're almost guaranteed at least the best spot in a gauntlet run where you'll need to win one best of 5 due to the amount of points. So get that top 2. There's no way you can lose it now when you're 8-0 without feeling terrible, at least.
Very true. Absolutely the case. Of course, if you guys are interested, though, you can check out the beta POV stream during our Match of the Week. It'll be featuring Hylissang. You go, why don't we go mid? Well, unfortunately, every time we put it on a mid laner, they die. But you put it on the supports who like to fight, you're definitely going to see some plays.
Pick Tom Kench.
Pyke. He's going to pick Pyke. I hope we...
Maybe.
Martin, come on. We've talked about the top teams. Guys, I also challenge you to pick a dark horse. The top 4 are easy. They're looking like they're staying safe there, but I wanted to know who you would put on the line. Of course, Deficio has already selected Schalke. Foxdrop is going to be arguing for the Unicorns of Love. Now, you guys at home can join the discussion by spamming UOL or S04 in the chat. Not S04, S04.
Important.
To clarify, to make sure it's fair for Deficio.
SO4 is fine, guys. SO4 works too.
But let's start with Deficio. Kick us off, buddy.
All right, first of all, first 2-0 week for Schalke in all of 2018. They're actually looking very good, especially against the bottom teams. They got 2 more bottom teams this week. I think it's a 4-0 win streak for Schalke, and that's how you definitely put yourself in the top 6.
It would put yourself in the top 6, but when I look at the Unicorns of Love, I think of the word potential. These guys have really good, aggressive plays. It's just they do some kind of silly stuff on the side as well. But that's cool because it means you can isolate what's doing wrong and take that out of your game.
Chat doesn't like potential. They've heard it all before. They want to see people who's winning games right now, and that's what Schalke are doing. And they want to see someone who can step up and consistently carry. Well, what year is it? It's the year of the Duck. Nuke Duck is actually stepping up big time. They're playing around him. He's the man who gets them in playoffs.
I'm not sure if it's the year of the duck or the year 2013, because I've been hearing that argument
Yeah, that's true.
since all the way back then. Potential with Nuke Duck, yeah, Nuke Duck's going to step up, he's going to be the carrier, okay, yeah, whatever. I think that's a bit of an old argument here. But let's talk about not just the mid laner, what about the jungler as well? Nuke Duck, amazing, versus Exile and Cold. Exile and Cold's a great mid-jungle duo, whereas the other one, amazing. Maybe he should be taking my spot in the future, because I'm not sure he deserves to be out there on the Rift.
He tried already. Then he went back to playing, so maybe you can go and be the jungler next year. Who knows? I just think with Schalke at the moment, they have the great schedule. They're actually learning how to play around the correct player. And even with Chachi up in the top lane, while he's not on the big carry, he's actually looking very useful on some new tanks that are not Cho'Gath. So all around this team has found out how to play this meta. It's the first time I can say that for all 2018, and I'm finally confident they will get top 6.
I don't think you are confident, mate. I think you're just saying that.
Very
so
confident.
This bar slides over here, but okay, I'm gonna
Get back down.
I'm going to pull my trump card on this one, okay? We're talking about the dark horses. How many horses are in the logo of Schalke? Sorry, sorry, what was that? Oh, yeah, 0. How many horses are in the logo of UOL? I rest my case.
It's a unicorn.
It's a Mate, you can't. That's semantics.
That's not a horse.
That is
Okay,
a semantic.
I'm calling
I refuse to
that's a
take
unicorn,
that.
because
That's
it
a
makes
semantic.
me laugh. It's the funniest possible route, which is that you got absolutely smashed the first minute and a half, Foxdrop. Your horse argument brought you 1% over the
Yay,
edge.
2%.
I'm calling that a win.
It's a
baby.
unicorn.
Yes,
Get it.
let's
Well
go.
done,
Damn
Foxdrop.
unicorn.
Bring it back.
Thank you.
I feel like the chat was 90% on your side, and then they saw how badly you were beating Foxdrop, and they gave him some pity points.
Then they,
It's also way harder to type S04.
I gave you a specific
Boom,
call
boom,
out, though.
boom.
that sounds like an excuse to me.
It's a unicorn. It's not a horse.
Gentlemen,
Rubbish.
we're talking about it. We'll see. Maybe they can both make playoffs. The top 4, nothing is decided quite yet.
I mean, they can definitely both actually, realistically, both
Yeah.
teams could get in. I think a lot of people are concerned about Rocket, who's currently in that top 6, to drop out. And I mean, Splice and Unicorns are right outside knocking on the door.
Gentlemen, dark horses, everything else aside, though, it's time for us to get down to the meat of the show here. We have something super important to do. The most important thing we've ever arguably done ever in the history of EU LCS. It's time for the totally made up EU LCS Awards. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The EU LCS Totally Made Up Awards, truly prestigious. Gentlemen, I'm so glad you could be here. These are our esteemed judges, the panel for the day. First, let's highlight our funniest player reactions from the split. And our nominees are...
We can't end. We can't end. I died. Oh. Okay, I guess I go by
Never
skills.
mind. Okay, walking bot side as well.
Oh my god.
Hey.
I got three.
Top 2-2, let's go, let's go.
Yeah, we have wave.
I push
Fish,
back.
fish. Nice. Oh, kiss down. Nice. Nice. Yeah,
Look, top tower. Top tower.
Okay, back. We don't get...
Nice.
Michael. Oh, Mundo.
Good shit, hold on.
Michael. Good job, bro.
Nice.
Good job.
Someone.
Like you're intended. You're in
My first Venta.
Really?
Yes.
Are you happy?
Yes, I'm
okay,
happy.
now playing Brahmagan then.
Who's it going to be, gentlemen? There's a lot of smiling, lovely faces there from the EU LCS. Charming reactions for sure. A couple of F-bombs, I think. We'll never know.
You
They're
never know
bleeped.
what they actually said. I like the Yana one. The first one was good. I felt like the Whipple one was pretty weak. We probably ran out of good options. He literally just clapped, and that was
Does
it.
that a lot. Likes to
But
clap.
yeah,
I'm going to say, as a jungler myself, I really feel for Jankos's excitement in that last clip where he says, "I'm never playing Braum again." Yeah, so raises his little arms up in the air. He's so happy, just like a little child happy about getting a new toy.
I mean,
feel
it's
for him.
looking good for him. The next category, however, we have to talk about best mic check moments. Now, guys, do you have any favorites? Does anything stand out to you?
oh baby.
What's the supreme mic check moment for both of you?
There was a super hot cheerleader in the last mic check episode, and the reactions from Splice when they
Yeah.
saw that, perfect body, perfect human being.
Some
was
say
spot
that,
on.
that person distracted them into not banning Aatrox.
Probably.
Some.
They were majestic.
That was my favorite moment of all the mic checks.
Well, it doesn't really matter what you think, because we've already chosen a winner, because it's really way too easy. It is going to be Jankos. The beautiful Jankos. If you haven't watched the most recent mic check, you need to understand that it's important to find out the secret. Please tweet him. We need to know. What is the secret? Jankos, you gotta tell us. You
They have
won
to
the
win
thing.
first.
We gave you an award for this thing. You just gotta tell us the secret now, bud. You just gotta make it happen, all right? Just do it for us. Do it for the people. All right, but the most important award, the one we save for last, is who has the best facial hair? Now our nominees, of course, starting with the lovely Cabo Shard.
majestic. I like it.
Tell me what you think, boys. What do you see?
I do miss the Viking beard of last split.
Now this one, the luxurious beard of Max Lord. Arguably the most handsome of the misfits, though some may flame me for not saying Hansama. Look at the majesty with which he stretches his neck.
Very masculine.
Interesting pose.
Yeah.
Ooh, Promise Q. Most deaths in the league. Now he's dying for your vote, folks. You gotta give it up.
Oh, look
Oh,
at that.
baby.
Last but not least, Bwipo. Ooh.
Oh, baby.
He's not reckless, but you're still excited to see him play.
I really miss the moment when the bottom part was gone and we only had the mustache from Whippo. I would have voted for that one, but I think now, based on the 4 people we have, Max Lore.
I reckon if you were to have a barbecue and someone shows up in socks, sandals, one of those shorts that comes down to here and really hairy legs, facial hair of Bwipo, he looks like that uncle that would do that.
And so you're voting for that.
Well, I don't actually know whether that means I should vote for him or not, but that was just an observation.
All right, well, you
I
guys
make.
clearly
So it has to be Max Lore.
cannot make a decision. You can't decide. You with the weird uncle and you with the handsome Max. Let us know what you
beautiful.
think. Help break the tie at LL Esports on Twitter. Share with us. Who has the best beard? Who has the best reactions? Let us know who you think should win the totally made up EU LCS awards. They're super important. Not really, but important things to actually talk about. We have had a lot of discussions recently about mid-split MVP. We're looking at the MVP race. We want to award kind of not an official mid-split MVP, but we want to start this discussion. And so I'm curious for you guys, right now in the split, who has been your mid-split MVP?
Yeah, for me, it has to be Caps. Because if you look at him statistically, he's been a bit of a boss, really. He's got some really impressive statistics. He's up there way at the top in his damage, KDA, his gold stats as well. He's having quite a statistical blinder of a split. But not only that, it's the value that he brings to Fnatic as well. I feel like if you take Caps out of Fnatic, it is a wholly different team and a much worse team because of it. He's truly the most valuable player to his team, in my opinion.
He's definitely the most important player on Fnatic. 100% agree. I hope for slightly more from Caps, but that's also because I came in with probably the highest expectations. I literally said from the get-go, this is my MVP. Like almost no, I can just predict from the start Caps will be the MVP of this split. It has not fully happened for me just yet, but I think also it's a weird meta for him to play because they're all playing like 3 mages everywhere. And
You're
stuff.
really big on gambling on mid laners. This
Hell
time
yeah, I
it's
just
the
put
year
him
of
on
Nuke
right
Duck.
now. You know what? That's why
Now it's Caps.
I did not pick a mid laner for this, for that specific reason. I went to the jungle instead. I already hyped his beard. That's definitely the MVP one, but I think Max Law and the stuff he's doing in-game for his team is so important because not only is he a great jungler, probably the best performing now, he's also the vocal leader of this team. He's the guy who's calling the shots in the early game where these guys are the best right now. He's involved in absolutely everything they do. So I think Max Law, at the moment, has shown that he's the most important player in Europe.
Great country of origin as well.
You gotta get that in there every time, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right,
Just saying.
fair. All right, well, we also want to hear from you guys at home, so tell us who you think is the mid-split MVP and why. You can tweet on Twitter at LOL Esports using the hashtag ReadyCheck. Now, we're going to dive a little bit deeper at the end of the day onto what these gentlemen think, as well as whoever else we have as guests. We also want to talk a little bit about what you guys are saying at home, so be sure to interact with us. Let us know what you think. We'll talk about those candidates in the EU LCS post-game lobby. We'll see. I'm waiting for the controversial ones. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
Someone says reckless, and you're like,
We'll see. I'm questioning that one. All right. However, we're going to see what our MVP candidates can do tonight as we close out the first round robin. Now, the match is ahead of us. A lot of high-pressure matchups, high-stakes matchups for these teams. But I'm curious, when we look at this one, we've already talked about the Vitality G2. We're already excited about that. But are there any other games that you're really interested in?
I want to see Splice. I want to see whether they can take it to the next level, honestly, because they set themselves quite a high bar from last split. And right now, they're pretty under that bar. If this were a limbo competition, thumbs up, Splice. Sadly, it's the EU LCS, and they're not doing so well right now.
they're also playing Giants, another team actually to look at after they beat G2 Esports last week. I think a lot of people say it was just one game and it didn't really matter, but Joko especially actually looked very good in that game. And we got to see some of the Giants team fighting, which has been very questionable in the past. Actually was enough to beat G2 Esports. So I don't think Giants are going to be the greatest team ever. But I think against Splice, it might actually be a pretty close game, even though people will say Splice are the favorites.
Personally, all I want are close games. So let's see what you guys actually predicted, what you aligned with in the end. Currently, Deficio and Vedius are tied for first place in predictions. Foxdrop is bringing up the rear, the only man in the LCS, making sure that I don't look like the worst analyst. So thank you for that, Foxdrop.
I'm just here to make everyone else look better. What can I say? I think there is a certain value in that skill. Honestly,
And
that's
You're
what
doing
I
a great
can say.
job with it. I got
okay, that's not a strong case for Vitality beating G2, though. Do you have
Yeah.
anything else?
Wait, does that do that? Oh, God.
Oh man, we got so many predictions the same. Is that good or bad?
Well, I mean, at least it means I can't go too far away from you guys again if all my
Fair.
predictions are
And
wrong.
for me, I can't get any further behind as long as I always predict the same things you do,
Yeah.
Deficio.
I actually feel like when I went through predictions for this day, I felt pretty confident in all 5, which is the first time so far this split. There's always like a few of them where I'm like, oh, I'm not really too sure. I guess you can make a case, of course, for Vitality after what G2 showed last week, but I fully expect them to bounce back, play like they did the first couple of weeks, and therefore they should take the win. Then also the other one we just talked about, Splice Giants. We all joined the Splice hype train.
Yeah, you're
It's
the person
risky.
you're the person who's like, it's a 50-50. It could go either way, but
It
apparently
wasn't
we're
when I made it 2 days ago. I was like, yeah, Splice. But then I was like, wait a minute, let's rewatch that Giants game again. And I'm like, okay, there's some decent stuff at
You
least.
saw some good stuff. Well, that is our first game, Giants and Splice facing off, who combined took down both spring finalists G2 and Fnatic last week. Now for a breakdown of Giants' win, let's hear from Ender.
Well, Drakos, there was the biggest upset of the split, I personally feel like, last week when Giants were able to take down G2. And for me, it all started in the draft, specifically getting bot lane the ability to all in on a dime with the Alistar and the Lucian taken very early on into the draft, as well as the support of Nocturne and Galio to come in and assist from that global range, meant that they were able to make plays around the bottom lane. And it also helped that they have a fantastic team fight bouncy castle with Alistar plus Galio knockups to set up for a great equalizer. But let's rewind a little bit. Let's go to the start of this game around level 6 point for these teams, where blue buff is coming up on the top side of the map for G2. Now, you'll notice right now that inside this bottom side of the jungle, here is Joko. He walked on in here, saw that Raptor camp was down, red buff was down, and also warded right over to make sure Krugs weren't up either. That meant 100% he could predict that the enemy jungler wasn't going to be here to be able to react for a play in this bottom lane. And as we roll this, it's important to note that Wadid doesn't have flash on this Tahm Kench. So as soon as he walks up here to try and ward that brush, Giants are ready to pounce and punish him. They also end up getting that kill onto Yarnan and burning his flash in the process. The turret also goes down on a push following this play, and it's important to note that when most teams would then recall their bottom lane and send them up topside in order to lane swap and try and take down that turret, Giants, they decided, let's stay in the bottom lane, let's prolong this laning phase, because now you have an immobile Ziggs and Tahm Kench that have to push up and go for minions. And again, I want to look at this mini-map here because the rest of Giants are ready to make this play. Ruin, you'll notice, he actually sacrificed his entire top lane, and that meant that he's able to run on down here because there's no teleports on the other side of the map. So they go for this play in the bottom side, and you'll notice that as soon as G2 try to react and fight them head on, because Ruin already made his way down here into this fight, they're able to execute on that combo with the equalizer on top of the Galio ultimate. Now, there were a few hiccups in the mid game for Giants. They really did try to go for a lot of fights that went either 50-50 or slightly out of their favor, and that evened up the game for a while and actually shot G2 back into the lead. But the Giants, they were able to get a prime pick here onto Perkz and set up for a 5 versus 4 around the Baron. And in this play, after they do get the kill, it's still a 5v4 against a Ziggs. That makes it so difficult to actually start up the Baron and wait for a turn to come from the enemy team. So you'll notice instead of 5-man stacking inside of the pit, no, they allow Sir Nukeslot to take this pathway all the way around, playing inside the fog of war on G2's side to get the flank because he doesn't have flash. He can't turn out of that pit, and it ends up setting up for that dream case team fight situation with 3-man knockup on top of 3-man knockup into that fantastic fight that ended up resulting in Giants taking the Baron, then going down bottom lane for one last team fight before they pulled off that upset win.
Love it, Ender. Love looking at it. The execution from Giants coming together.
Wombo combo at the end, man.
Oh, yeah. Just every time you get to see a game end like that is so satisfying, especially speaking from a play-by-play caster. But one thing I do also want to highlight in this game was looking at Steelback. He had a pretty fantastic week last week, and I think this is a guy who I've definitely levied a lot of criticism against, and I think for Giants it's a good sign when their AD carry can step up and be a threat.
I mean, generally, if you are Giants, you needed more carries than Betsy. That was kind of the big story point going into that week. I think, yeah, Steelback actually had some good fights. Also set up because all the focus was on what happened at the front with the Wombo combo. Makes it a lot easier to play an AD carry if everyone is trying to run away from an equalizer.
Yeah, and also when you have globals on your team, the Nocturne and the Galio, to make sure that they were always going to be able to set up and help him down into the bottom lane, gave him a pretty impressive stat line through that game.
Yeah, and we have seen Steelback during the years do well in team comps where he's not the main carry. Like he is actually able to dish out a decent amount of damage as long as he doesn't have to dodge the first initial engage. And that's what that comp showed. They had to run at the enemy team, and that benefited Steelback.
Yeah, finding out how to set him up for success. Of course, the man who set up pretty much the entire Giants lineup for success was Joko. Now he's going toe-to-toe with Xerxes in the jungle. These are two guys who are pivotal for their team. Let's talk a little bit about this jungle matchup. Who actually has the edge here? What does this come down to?
Right, so I actually view both of these players as filling very similar roles on their team, because when you see Joko and Xerxes making plays early on into the match, that's where these teams find a lot of success. But then there's other games where they just don't have that same impact, and the rest of the team doesn't really know what to do without that early game advantage. I personally give the edge over to Xerxes, but Joko personally has also done a lot of creative things early on into the matches.
Yeah, and I think there's a big difference in terms of how each player approaches the game. Xerxes has never been the I want to gank 10 times in the early game and risk everything on just trying to get early kills. Well, that's been Joko's playstyle for a long time. He is extremely high risk, high reward in how he actually approaches the early game, which typically benefits his team if you have a lane to play around. Not always the case for Giants. If they have it, like the game we just saw here, where you highlight how they dove the bot lane over and over, that was a big deal, and that made Joko look very good. So if Giants have a strong early game comp, I think he can have more impact on Cersei.
I absolutely agree. And even in that game, he was going for like level 2 ganks on Nocturne, which you just
Every
don't
time,
see.
baby.
But this is a guy that will make those types of plays.
At the end of the day, I think just about everybody on the broadcast team predicted Splice. If Giants are going to win this, what is it going to come down to? Ender, I want to hear from you.
It's going to come down to drafting a coherent plan again, like they did against G2, where they pick a lane to focus and have Joko team up with the rest of the squad and absolutely punish that lane. They need to have one focus and just that one.
All right, well, we're going to find out today. It's time for us to head down to our caster and kick off today's action. Take it away, guys.
Thank you, Drakos.